There's nothing average about the Air Force Academy or those who come here.
It takes more than smarts and good grades.
It takes grit.
It's for the I never quit students, the relentless, persevering, most likely to keep trying until I reach my best students.
Because we will go on to lead others, push boundaries, save lives, and represent American ideals.
If you've got what it takes, prove it.
Hello and welcome. This is Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe, with a very special episode today with Air Force Athletic Director Nate Pine. I would like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. They are one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. They specialize in employee benefits, wealth management, and retirement planning. President Sean Rabinowitz, proud supporter of our podcast network. Green Street Trust International, owned and operated by Rennell Jump and UConn men's basketball legend Jake Voskuhl. They specialize in tax plans for businesses large and small. They will save you money or get you a big fat return on your taxes. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm, located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you've suffered any type of personal injury, slip and fall, car accident, your mother-in-law ran you over with her car, your wife got angry one night, she decided to stab you, the Finch firm is for you. Pete has won legal battles all across the state of Connecticut, and he will go to war to get every dollar you deserve in compensation. You just have to remember, in a pinch, call Finch or go to his website, thefinchfirm.com. Dynamic Human Performance is owned and operated by UConn legendary running back Andre Dixon. He trains boys and girls of all ages, of all sports. He has a boot camp program 7 days a week, 6 a.m. You want to get in shape? You go to Andre. He has an athletic development program. He trains boys and girls from the ground up in the sport of their choice, helps them to reach their full potential, become the best they can possibly be. Andre has sent boys and girls to college on scholarship for all different types of sports. All right, and here we are with Nate Pine, Air Force Academy Athletic Director, who was kind enough to give us his time today for an interview. Nate, welcome.
Steve, thanks for having me. It was great to see you a couple of weeks back at the football game, and appreciate the offer to be on.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you came to Holy Cross, and it was just an incredible experience. But I realized I didn't know all of your background. I know you went to Oregon State. Where exactly did you grow up?
So I grew up down in Southern Oregon, really small town, about 1,500 people, Eagle Point, not far from the California border. So small town kid, went to Oregon State for undergrad, and actually kind of lucked into my first job in college athletics right there out of school. So I've had an entire career in college athletics and love what I do. Love the institutions I've been at. Obviously, our connection and getting a chance to be together at Holy Cross was a lot of fun, and have fond memories of that program and building it. And I've enjoyed, now that I've been at Air Force, watching it continue to thrive. That's a big piece of it is, you know, not only the young people that you get to interact with and affect while you're there, but continuing to see those institutions thrive when you leave is a great source of pride.
Did you always like sports or have an affinity for sports growing up?
So I did. I was a two-sport athlete. In fact, I was a recruited walk-on at Oregon State as a baseball player, and didn't pan out. So I knew I wanted to work a career in athletics. I didn't have a great idea right out of school how it was going to pan out. I had thought about law school as an option and maybe being on the agent side or the pro side. But I had my baseball coach who cut me, Pat Casey, a legendary baseball coach.
Yes,
exactly what he was doing. And he was the one that suggested that I take a look at an opportunity at Oregon State in fundraising. They needed a fundraiser to go back to Southern and Central Oregon, where I'm from. And it was fortuitous. My first boss, a gentleman that gave me a start in college athletics, is Greg Byrne, who's now the athletic director at Alabama. Greg told me he could teach me everything I needed to know about development, and the rest is history. So, yeah, very, very fortunate just in the people you know, the opportunities and doors that are open to you. And you never know what's going to be that catalyst. That about a year in, I realized that not only did I love college athletics, found out I was pretty good on the development and revenue generation side, and the rest is history. I've been able to work my way up and be at a number of institutions since.
Yeah, you've definitely made a difference on that side. And I know that you got a BA in marketing. How much has that influenced you as far as being able to, connect with people and fundraise? Because you got to really make that connection with someone before you ask for that money. And you've been able to do that so many places and do it well.
Well, thank you for that. I think that more than the education piece of it, having a business background is really helpful, especially where college athletic departments have gone and will continue to go. But I think that development and truly a lot of the jobs on the external side of the athletic department are about personality and passion. And so when we talk about fundraising, that's as much about articulating a vision or an impact of what a gift will have. Folks that are slanted toward being generous to an athletic department or a university have that affinity. At the end of the day, they want to understand how their gift is going to make an impact. And so you're inviting them to buy into a vision and something that's going to move an institution forward, either in the athletic department or other areas. And we talk about the ask, but it's not so much an ask as it is an invitation, because the folks that we're talking to are predisposed to support the institution or support values of the institution and opportunities that it's going to provide for young people.
Yeah, you're really trying to move the needle, and you've done that with so many major projects. And you ended up going to Berkeley, which is not exactly an easy school to get into, and you got your master's there in education. What drew you to Berkeley?
Well, it was the job opportunity. So after Oregon State, I went to West Point, and I worked at West Point for 4 years, running the external side of the athletic department. And then, the ironic part is I went from West Point to Berkeley, and you can't have two more opposite campus cultures. And I love them both. They're both very interesting to me. They're both passionate fan bases, and they're both, polar opposites in the way those campuses operate. But the opportunity at Cal was to work for Sandy Barber and help them build their football stadium. And so I went there for the job. And then also West Point doesn't have postgraduate education. And so the chance to come back to a traditional college campus, fortunate enough to get accepted into grad school, but wanted to get a master's in education because I had the business background as an undergrad, both in international business and marketing. So I thought that the commitment to higher ed and this being a profession was important. And so I studied cultural studies of sport and education. And it gave me a very different perspective into the holistic piece of what puts an athletic department together, but really what an athletic department is all about in supporting young people. So really enjoyed that opportunity to both work full-time on something meaningful in the renovation of Memorial Stadium and also earn my master's there over the course of the time that I was at Cal. So really fortunate, and it kind of goes back. I mentioned Greg Byrne early on as my first athletic director and mentor. Working for Kevin Anderson at Army was tremendous. And then an opportunity to work for Sandy Barber. I've been really fortunate through, a little bit of luck, a little bit of folks helping me out and opening doors and introductions to be able to work for some of the best athletic directors in the country. And that's been foundational for me and really helping to establish my vision of what right looks like, but also taking little pieces from each of their styles and incorporate them into how I lead athletic departments now over my last 2 stops. So it's the people you get to meet along the way that rub off on you, and that circle and the influence that they have is tremendous.
Did your time at obviously at Army make you want to work at a military academy, at a military institution? Did it influence you that much that, you said, this is what I want to be a part of, or was it too early on?
It's probably a little early on. I think that there are certainly things that I took away from my experience at Army that were meaningful, and certainly we talk about incorporating them into how I'm going to operate regardless of what school I'm at. So those pieces were incredible. The academies operate very differently, and so you just have to know that going in, that they're going to be a different challenge, and you're going to have to do things differently than the people that you're competing against. So I enjoyed the puzzle piece and the challenge piece of that. And my guess is my experience at an academy probably made me a little more attractive when the Air Force job came open and we were working with the search firm on the opportunity here, that I had a little bit of a start on the learning curve, if you will, of how academies operate. The 3 of us do it a little bit different, but my experience at West Point certainly set me up for greater success at Air Force, just because I came in having a little more base of knowledge about what it was going to take here.
And we do have the fundraising, the Air Force fundraising fund right here. You can donate, and the QR code up top here, you can just scan with your camera to donate as well. And you went to Maryland. Was that with Kevin Anderson as well?
I did. So we were underway with the construction and the fundraising at Memorial Stadium when Kevin took the AD job at Maryland. And so he talked me into coming back and being his deputy again. And so I got an opportunity to plant a foot in the ACC and really understand what that Mid-Atlantic looked like, what the ACC was all about, and then help make the decision on transitioning Maryland from the ACC to the Big Ten. And so that was obviously a challenging time financially for the University of Maryland, and the opportunity that presented itself with the Big Ten was one that we couldn't turn our back on. And it's been fun to see how that institution has changed dramatically since I left for Holy Cross, but since they made the move into the Big Ten and what that has set them up for as far as success long-term athletically.
Was the fundraising effort at Maryland different once you guys made the decision to go into the Big Ten? Did you realize I may need a little bit more money to have success here?
Well, I guess the way I would say that, Steve, is every school needs not only a little bit more money, but a lot more money. So the piece of the move was financially driven in that the television revenue opportunities and the rev share in the Big Ten was
huge,
double what you were looking at in the ACC, and continues to be. They continue to outpace as you look at the Big Ten and the SEC. What they've been able to do with their media rights is tremendous,
unbelievable.
And so forecasting that not only opportunity day one, but growth was important. But then to your point, I think for the fan base at Maryland, understanding facility-wise investment, what it was going to take to be successful in the Big Ten, absolutely raised the game. And I think it also did on the academic side. When you look at and you've got great schools in the ACC, don't get me wrong, but when you look at the academic rigors of the Big Ten, the way those schools share academic resources, study abroad programs, libraries, I think academically that tide helped raise the boat for the entire institution. And so there was a lot of buy-in there on a number of fronts.
Is there an academic requirement? I can't remember exactly what it's called to join the Big Ten.
So I think they still refer to it as a consortium on collaboration.
That's what I was thinking.
And so that's the shared resources that I referenced there in my previous comments. Is they are very tied together academically in shared resources. And what they want to see, they want to see all of those be premier academic institutions. That was a foundation of their association in the first place.
Right. In terms of facility investment, fan experience, stadium upgrades, premium seating, how do you balance the margin of excellence with ensuring access and engagement for the broader population of fans with everything?
Well, I think we'll take it here to Air Force. And so while we're not in the world of name, image, and likeness or rev share, and we don't really participate in the transfer portal, we do have to have relevant athletic programs, and it takes facilities. And then you go into the revenue generation. You've got to have premium seating. You've got to have experiences. You have to do the things that fans are expecting and see at other places. And so when we talk about generating revenue at the Air Force Academy, we need to generate revenue. We need to enhance that fan experience. We need to make big investments back in our athletic programs, even though, as I referenced earlier, we're going to have to do it differently. Our success is not going to look like success does at Boise State or San Diego State, but we're going to take the field and the courts, and we're going to compete against those schools, and we're going to just do it differently. We talk about a very different value proposition on the recruiting trail. We're looking for very different athletes, academically and athletically than the schools we're going to compete against. And that's where the onus is on us to make sure that we have all of the developmental pieces in place, that those young men and women are going to be able to be successful, that our coaches are going to be able to be successful. And then we also have to have some schemes. We need to do some things tactically that put our young men and women in a position to be successful when we match up against those schools. So it's not easy, but the challenge of it is pretty invigorating. And ultimately, we know that the product that we put out at graduation and the young men and women that we commission as second lieutenants are going to be outstanding leaders. And they're also going to be leaders in our country, whether it's a career in the Air Force or the Space Force, or if they get out after a period of time and go out and do big things in their community. The foundation, the values that we've established here set them up for success, and in turn set all of the people close to them up for success. So we go about it different, but we take it very seriously, and we want to make sure that when we have the opportunity to compete, we compete well and we are engaging. And we see that here in the Colorado Springs community. We have an incredible fan base that love coming to campus, that love being a part of this experience, that love supporting our cadet athletes. And it's a really neat place, but it's a challenging spot. We have to go about our business a little bit differently, and we just have to own it. So it's not for everybody, but for those that see the opportunity and the value and really embrace it, we have a tremendous amount of success.
No, just going back to when you came into Holy Cross, the biggest thing that I noticed, and I hate using this word because it's a buzzword that I think people use all the time and use it wrong, but culture. You came in and you really changed the culture at Holy Cross across the board with the coaches, with the players, with everything that was going on in the athletic department. You walked in there and you had the confidence to do it, and you had such a positive attitude that it resonated with everyone in the department, all the coaches, and even the kids. I mean, all the kids loved you. You knew all the kids' names, no matter what the sport was. What was it about you that coming in there, you were able to really attack the culture and get it changed right away?
Well, I think it helped. I was a pretty young guy and just didn't know what I didn't know. So that was my first AD job. I had been the deputy at the University of Maryland. And so it was an exciting challenge for me. And coming to Holy Cross, there was a lot to learn. I had been in the Patriot League when I was at Army, so knew a little bit about the league. But for me, it was being able to show my enthusiasm and passion for college athletics. And it was an opportunity to put my stamp on a program and do the things that I thought were important. And that's engaging with the young men and women in your programs. That's getting buy-in from your coaches and helping understand what their goals are and what is needed in order to help them move it forward. And as you saw when we were at Holy Cross, we had a great needs in facilities. And so the sky was the limit as far as what we needed to do on the fundraising trail. And that was a matter of selling the vision and articulating what investment was going to yield and then what that was going to do to the overall institution. And so for me, I didn't get it right every step of the way, that's for sure. I learned a lot of things in my 5 years, a little over 5 years at Holy Cross. And, from buy-in to what we looked for in hires to what we were trying to do as far as moving the overall institution forward. I just enjoyed the opportunity to kind of put my stamp on a athletic department and bring along a lot of folks that bought into that vision and were contributing to it and moving the entire institution forward, because athletics, especially at a small school like Holy Cross, can really move the needle.
And you made a lasting impact there with the new Heart Center and the Luth Athletic Complex, and fundraising for that. Fundraising and brand growth are often really kind of invisible to fans. They just expect it to happen, just a facility to pop up. But it's so critical. And you've already talked about it, getting donors to buy into a vision. But how do you build and communicate a compelling story to donors when few outside really see what happens behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of building relationships with folks. So you need to have some time to let them get to know you and you get to know them, because that was a big piece of it. When you look at the Luth family and what they were able to do, I mean, I would say this, take it away from Holy Cross. When you invest $100 million in athletic facilities on any campus, it's going to have an impact. But when you do it on a campus the size of Holy Cross, my goodness, what that was able to do as far as taking that institution leaps and bounds beyond their peers in competition and really, putting them on square footing with the likes of a UConn as far as what those facilities look like. That was a huge deal. And John Luth, as a grad and a former soccer player, had a lot of passion for the opportunities and the doors that were open to him from a Holy Cross education. And so he had a great desire to give back to the institution in a meaningful way. And he saw that lens through the athletic department as being able to be a force multiplier of the generosity that he was going to do. So that was an incredible thing, because you don't often find a combination of that, someone that is so inclined to make a generous gift to start with, and then to have that athletic experience and be such a formational piece of why he was connected and wanted to do it. So it was a fortunate time and a great compliment to him and his family and what they've been able to do. And then the success that Holy Cross has continued to have since opening that and doing other facilities, it's always one of those nice things that when you do have some success and you get a little bit of that marketing bounce and the exposure from it, you see a lot of other folks come out of the woodwork who want to support the institution, who are now very vocal about being grads in their communities and then wanting to have that connection back. And so you see that at a lot of schools.
But when you came in, you hit the ground running. You knew exactly what you wanted to do, and you were able to get it done. And that was amazing, because it was really, Lafayette had a decent facility, but Holy Cross took it over by far once you got that done. But the other big hire everyone talks about is you brought in Coach Chesney, Bob Chesney from Assumption, Division II. Nobody was expecting that to come to Holy Cross. He comes in, he has unprecedented success, takes Holy Cross to a championship game. Where did that come from? That shocked me even.
You know, it was interesting. I remember that search vividly. And at the end of the day, there were a number of Holy Cross alums that were involved and very interested in the opportunity there, because there is such a storied history. When you look at Holy Cross football, I mean, there in the early 90s, there was a time when Holy Cross was one of the premier, if not the premier program in the Northeast. And so there was plenty of interest in it. But what really stood out to me and going through the process and having conversations was I was blown away with Bob's passion, with his approach, with his plan, as you talk about holistically all the things that go into running a program, from coaches you're going to hire and put around you, to your approach to recruiting, to your ability to do more with less. I mean, he had success. Maybe he wasn't known nationally in the way that he is now, but he had success at the Division III level. He had success at the Division II level. I knew with the resources and what we were putting into the program at Holy Cross, it was a no-brainer that he was going to have success at the FCS level. And so that one was really, and I think you see it in a lot of sports. I've learned it over my career, getting it right and wrong, is you have a feeling about folks. And when you talk about being a CEO of a program and you find a person like a Bob Chesney that is so energetic, so engaging, and has a plan, those are the people that always step in and are the most successful. So not a huge surprise there. Maybe a little bit of a surprise to alums and folks outside of having interacted with him, that he was maybe not the easy choice, especially when you're talking with alums in a storied history. But for me, I think it was a very easy choice and the right choice, because he had the passion and the vision to step in and lead that program in a big way. And I only got 1 year with him, and we got off to a start, and you could see where it was building. We didn't have as much success in year one as he had the 4 years after I had come to Air Force, but it was fun to watch them take that trajectory that you envision when you make a hire, and then see him come and have so much success, stay connected with him. It was ironic, actually, when he left Holy Cross to go to JMU, we were playing him in the bowl game when I was the AD here at Air Force. So we played him in the Armed Forces Bowl. And so it was really nice to get a chance to reconnect with Bob and Andrea and congratulate them on all the success that they had at Holy Cross, and, start to see them and his vision and the way his mind works of what that was going to look like at JMU, as he was stepping into a program that had had a ton of success, but it was also going to make a significant change as that coaching staff left. A lot of those players left, and he was going to have to put together in his mold what success was going to look like at JMU. And as we can see, he didn't miss a beat there. He's had a ton of success. In fact, they're right in the hunt for one of the CFP spots at JMU. So they haven't dropped off one bit. And,
and he's a candidate for some of the big jobs now. And that's what I find so impressive.
There's always names talked about, Steve. And that's one of the really hard things in our business on coaching carousel or AD job. What is written or talked about on podcasts isn't always the case. And so
no, it's not.
Be careful with the candidate piece, but what? Bob deserves all the success that is going to come to him. And I'll tell you what, any school that has an opportunity to bring him in and have him set the culture for their football program is going to be well rewarded.
So you come into Air Force, and the athletic program, especially football. I mean, football had some great seasons from 2019 coming out, especially after COVID, and getting involved with all the other programs as well. I mean, it's a different environment, as you said. I mean, it's a service academy environment. Their days start at 5 a.m. I mean, they're not just going to class. What is your leadership philosophy in athletics? Because it's completely different as far as, the cadets you're dealing with, or not cadets, but the Falcons that you have there, and the service people and the staff, the coaches. So it's got to be different as far as your leadership philosophy, or would you say it's similar to everywhere you've been?
Well, I guess I would say it this way: my philosophy and approach doesn't change. But when you're talking about the development of leaders in an academy, I mean, my goodness, that is what this place, what Annapolis, what West Point is built on, is developing leaders of character. And so my approach to the athletic department is very similar. But at the end of the day, I know that I'm second fiddle at best to the things that are going on at the academy and developing these young folks. And so I think just being authentic to be able to come in and say that, one thing that helped is we had 5 years of success at Holy Cross in building that athletic program. So I had confidence that the lessons that I had learned and the mentors that I had set me up for success in running an athletic department. And so just owning that coming to Air Force, that it was going to look a little bit different. There's always scaling when you go to any school, but being true to the things that I think are important about engaging and being approachable for our young people, from getting buy-in from our coaches about what right looks like and what's important to us. Yes, we want to win, but just as important is us doing things the right way and being an example. And then when you talk about the entire athletic department, putting the support systems in place to make sure that our coaches and our kids are successful. And there's a lot of people behind the scenes that nobody knows the things that they do or the time that they put in, that have to be aligned and bought in for an athletic department to be successful. So my job here was talking about those things, making small tweaks, generating more resources, making more investments. Those are the things where an athletic director can really move the needle. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a culture overhaul. It wasn't a leadership philosophy change. The things that have made this place special for the last 70 years are going to make it successful the next 700 years. I know and respect that. My piece was being able to bring some of my expertise and oftentimes some of the network in recruiting folks when you have positions open to come buy in and add to what we do at the Air Force Academy. And that's not a hard sell. When you talk about quality of life in Colorado Springs, you talk about quality of environment in this campus and the people you get to work with and the people you get to be around, not a hard sell. There's a lot of folks that are excited to come be a part of it. And then as we've had more and more success, as we've built our brand, as we've extended our brand, it helps bring folks in, from other areas that maybe didn't know about the Air Force Academy, that athletics has now introduced them to the Air Force Academy. And so there's a lot of satisfaction in that too.
There's been so many changes recently in college athletics, as far as, the transfer portal, as far as NIL goes. And, we were looking at it at UConn, especially being an independent, very, very difficult to sustain success when you don't have that broadcasting revenue, when you don't have it from the Big East as well. And if you don't have that NIL money, you're doing it at Air Force, and it's the same kind of situation. You can't really take transfers. It's not really a place where you can get NIL money. How are you able to build success and sustain success in this climate? Because this current climate, it could only get bigger. It could only get worse. I mean, if they go to 2016 playoff, I mean, you're in the Mountain West right now. It's got to be challenging when all these other teams are they're getting tons of money from revenue from different sources, and you guys can't take NIL money.
Well, yeah, we can't do rev share. We can't do NIL because of the endorsement piece. So there's right. Federal employment. So I guess on the upside of it is, we got everybody wringing their hands nationally about should they be employees, should they not be employees. Our cadets have always been employees. So
they always have.
We've got that piece figured out. Steve, it's funny. I mean, there's nuance and challenges for every institution, every campus that I've been on. And so you can look at it as what we don't have, or you can look at it as what we do have. And so that's the conversations that we have with our coaches, with our staff, and really with our kids and families on the recruiting trail. Is we have an incredible 4-year experience that is going to set you up for 40 years
life.
of success.
Yeah.
We have the secret sauce, if you will, to developing a leader that will be successful in any endeavor that they choose. And we have a challenge ahead of you that for certain population of our young people is exactly what they want. We have academic challenges that are on par with the Ivy Leagues. And so that is for the right candidate, that is what draws them here. And so when we talk about it, we don't really talk about what we don't have. What we talk about is adjusting and adapting, because that's what we're always going to have to do. And honestly, that's what we've always had to do. We've had athletic success at the academies, and some folks scratch their head and say, I don't get it. But we do, and we have to approach it differently. But that doesn't mean we don't need to enhance our facilities. That doesn't mean we don't need to raise money. We need to do all of those things to make the investments that give us the sizzle that looks similar, not always better, not always the same, but similar to the schools that we're competing against. We need to invest our money in development in a way that other programs are probably dialing back because they need to invest their money in their roster. And
100%.
I wanted to make sure that I gave you proper kudos because and Coach Mora, because what you have done at UConn as an independent under his leadership is incredible. And I saw it there on game day, and it was so much different than when we went there at Holy Cross as the FCS opponent.
Yes, and you almost beat us.
To see how much that had grown, to see how much buy-in there has become, and to see just the investments that you're making in the sport of football at UConn is a testament to getting a lot of buy-in, and that takes a lot of time, and it takes some success to get that flywheel going. So you have a great team. It was impressive to see it firsthand and how much it's progressed. I would have liked to have us come out of there with a win, but didn't work this time. Hopefully we'll get you when you come back to Colorado Springs next year.
Yeah, that's not gonna be an easy trip for sure. But I mean, everything that you have done, everywhere that you have been, the biggest thing that I've seen with you is networking. You're very well liked. There aren't people who say bad things about you. Everyone enjoys meeting you. Everyone enjoys shaking your hand. Even me, I mean, just a part-time coach who texts you every now and then just to say hi, see how you're doing. You always respond. You always say how you're doing, and you keep in touch with people. How have you been able to build that network and keep it and, make people feel important? Because that's huge.
I mean, that's just the way I was raised. So
you're a good guy.
Credit to my parents that, teaching me what right looks like and how to interact with folks and how to represent yourself and your family. So for me, those are just how I go about my business. And when we talk about a network, I'm not a big networker. I don't work on it, but what I do is I try to be authentic in conversations that I have when I interact with folks. What you see is what you get. And you were giving me some credit there that I'm not well liked by everybody. At the end of the day,
no, you are.
It's one of those things. If you are who you are, you're not going to have everybody happy with you 100% of the time. There's 20% that are with you no matter what. There's 20% that are against you. You're playing for the 60% in the middle. And at the end of the day, if you're true to who you are, you do what you say you're going to do, and you try to do the right thing, you're usually going to have that 60%. And so for me, that's what's important, is making sure that I represent the institution that I'm at the right way, making sure that I move the organization forward, and I try to do the right thing. And so do the right thing means responding to folks, means being approachable, means picking up the phone when, you've got to work through a challenging issue. And so that has probably bought me a certain amount of credibility. And it's important to me that that's just how I conduct myself and how I operate. And so it's served me well. It's a good thing because I don't know if I could be any different. But I also understand that part of what I do here while I'm at the Air Force Academy represents the Air Force Academy. And so I take that as a source of pride, but also a good challenge. There's a lot of responsibility there that I say and do the right things that uphold this institution the way that it deserves to be. And so that's an important part. And we talk about, in the Mountain West or in any conference where we have affiliate memberships, we want to be the class of that conference. We want to set the standard of how you operate, how you host, hopefully how you compete on the field, in the pool, on the court. But at the end of the day, making sure you do it the right way. And folks walk away from an Air Force Academy experience saying, wow, that place is special. I see why folks hold it in such high esteem. And so when I joke with you, hopefully we come up on the right side of the football scoreboard next year. But for all of the UConn fans that come out and all of the families that make that trip, it's going to be a memorable and a meaningful experience because you get to see one of the crown jewels of this nation in the Air Force Academy up close and personal. And we take great pride in making sure we put our best foot forward, that it is experience you walk away with remembering.
You do. And you've always built great relationships with people, and you've always had a plan moving forward. And I believe your contract is extended through 2028. What would you like to see improve? What are your goals going forward in the next couple of years, would you say, for the athletic department?
I think probably top is, you might say it's a cop-out, but I think we need to learn and adapt to this new world of rev share and NIL because it is so different for us. I think there's going to be a little bit of a stasis that right now it's the Wild West and we're a couple of years in. And so nobody has all of the answers and certainly not us. But I think us figuring out what our pivot is, what our value proposition looks like, and how we articulate that on the recruiting trails, and also how we develop and adjust maybe our playing styles or approach is going to be the challenge here over the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years as this thing evolves. I think there's always going to be a place for the academies. Right now, Navy's got the football team that's performing well. Historically, it's been the Air Force Academy. I think there's always going to be an ability to compete on the football field and in our other sports. I think we'll see some of our Olympic sports take a big step forward because other schools are not going to be investing in them in the way that we are at Air Force. And so just learning to adapt and adjust to the new norms and the new world of the NCAA is a great challenge, but it's one I take a lot of pride in. We're going to meet it. We're going to figure out how to adjust, compete, and be successful. It is important to us as an institution. And then the other part is we're going to continue to make big investments. We put $90 million into our football stadium and did a major renovation that we opened last year, and it's made a huge impact. And we're going to continue to do that in our other sports too, because not only is it important for recruiting, it's important for the fan experience. It's important for your competitive environment. So we're going to continue to do those things, maybe when other schools dial back a little bit on that because they're spending so much on their roster. So it's a game of chess, and we've got to figure out what our moves are. But I think that challenge is part of what makes it fun.
Absolutely. If it was easy, then everyone would be doing it. But absolutely, what you have been doing since you've gotten there, what you've been doing now, you've made so much tremendous progress. I look at especially college football. College football right now seems to rule the roost. It's bringing in the most revenue. It's what teams are using to spend on other sports. They have 20 million max, and some teams are spending 15 million just on football alone. Do you think that college football is getting too big, or do you see it even getting bigger? Because I know that they're going to continue to go up. It's going to be 22 million next year, what they can pay the athletic department. That is my only concern. I just with the transfer portal, especially, you're seeing kids transferring 2-3 times. And to me, that's a red flag. It's like, with me especially, you don't play, it's adversity. You fight through it, you overcome it, and you work yourself on the field. Now, if a kid's not playing, the grass is greener, I'm going to look to transfer and go somewhere else. So that's my concern, is that it's getting a little too big. People are going into the transfer portal by the thousands. And I think it could be a crisis in the future if it doesn't work out. Do you think that the transfer portal should be limited to maybe one transfer per kid? Or if they go twice, they have to sit out? Or do you think it's just going to be status quo?
Well, there's a lot there, Steve.
I know.
Let's dial it back a little bit. I think is this sustainable? Yes. Athletics in this country are one of the most popular things, if not the most popular thing.
Number
if you
one.
Look at the trend chart on NFL, college sports, any sport, it continues to go up. So when you talk about football being important, absolutely, it drives 85 to 90% of the revenue on any athletic program. When you look at the media side, and also when you look at the dollars brought in, that can vary a little bit, but in general, you look across 136 FBS football schools, it's 85 to 90%. So you need to make investments, and I think that's why you're seeing schools be so quick to make changes too, because there is so much revenue. But we can clutch our pearls all we want. That's going to continue to happen. And so we need to get comfortable with it, adapt. Now, I will also say I don't love where we're at right now in college athletics because, as I referred to earlier, it's the Wild West. We don't have a lot of vision. We don't have a lot of guardrails. And so we're dealing with some unintended consequences when you are unregulated. And I don't think it's going to be that way forever. I'm actually encouraged by the SCORE Act and the evolution of the SCORE Act, maybe merger with some of the components of the safe. At the end of the day, I think you're going to need some federal pre-exemption in order to be able to regulate yourselves. And that'll be a healthier market. But the other part of your question is transfer portal and players getting paid. I'm all for that. When you look at it, there is more revenue around college athletics than there's ever been. We should absolutely be sharing in that revenue with our athletes. And it's blasphemy, if you transplant yourself to today from the 50s or 60s, when we had a more collegiate model. But at the end of the day, some of this stuff was happening back then too. It was happening through the 80s and the 90s. And so while now it's a little more above board and in your face, I don't think that that's a bad thing. You asked about the transferring. I would like to see us get a healthier place than where we are now, because I do think that we should not get away from education is valuable.
Priority.
And sure, we might be able to make a little bit of money while we're going to school playing. Some might be able to make a lot. But at the end of the day, the education and the success that's going to set you up for, the maturation that happens through the college experience, that is valuable. And so I would like to see us be able to put in place a system that gets us progress toward degree. And whether that's transferring once or whether that's sitting out for a year in residence before your second transfer, I don't know exactly that. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I think we've got a lot of smart people. And if we start working on that progress from a bunch of different lenses, we'll get to a better spot than where we are now. But I don't want us to untether college athletics from the education. And so let's come up with a better strategy for progress toward degree than we're at right now. But ultimately, if a young man or young woman wants to make a couple different stops in their academic and athletic career, I'm okay with that. You look at the pro side of it, we've got free agency, so it's regulated in a way that works well in their professional sports. I'm thinking we can do something similar that will work for us in a collegiate model. But we've got to be open-minded. The worst thing we can do is say, oh, college athletics is awful. It's not anything that no, it doesn't look exactly like what we remember, you and I, and certainly not our parents. But at the end of the day, college athletics is still important. It's still the greatest access
more popular
to college education. It's most popular as far as sporting events behind the NFL. So That's not going away. Can we do it better? Absolutely. And that's incumbent upon me and my colleagues to help drive the train on that. We need university presidents on board. We need the NCAA to be open-minded and helpful, and they have been more so here in the last 5 years of my career than the previous 20. So I think folks understand that we're not putting the horse in the barn, to say back where I come. But at the end of the day, we've got to put a pasture in place that helps have a healthy ranch in a way that we don't right now, because it's free range.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to thank you again for coming on. You have done some tremendous things at Air Force. Everywhere that you've been, I think you've made an impact. You have a legacy from Oregon State, Cal, West Point, Maryland, Holy Cross, now Air Force. You're doing tremendous things. You're doing things that people never thought were possible. And you're a young guy with a brilliant mind and a great personality that people like. And that's going to take you far places. And I appreciate you coming on and talking with us. And I wish you the best in your winter sports, for basketball especially.
Well, thank you, Steve. I appreciate the opportunity to come and chat with you. It was a fun experience. I need to hire you as my hype man and my
There
agent.
you go.
Nobody quite gives me the accolades as I've gotten on your show, but no, I love what I do. I love the people that I represent and what this profession does for young people and for the institutions we represent. So I'm lucky to be a part of it and try to move the needle wherever I can.
And you are for sure. So for Nate Pine, the athletic director at the Air Force Academy, I'm Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe, and the national spotlight winner for the Husky Alumni Award. Remember that. And Nate, if you don't know my tagline, it's remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges and throw them right back at life.
Help us in supporting over 1,000 cadet athletes at the United States Air Force Academy. Join the Falcon Athletic Fund today and be responsible for funding critical projects and providing the margin of excellence resources necessary for our cadet athletes to compete for championships at the highest level.